pass out to all of you a notes paper, and while I'm doing my PowerPoint, I'd like you to write down in the blank spots the answers. It correlates to the PowerPoint, so you're not trying to figure out like random words. It's word for word from the PowerPoint. So today our classroom objective is to learn how the ruminant digestive system works. So the ruminant digestive system. The rumen is the first and largest stomach in the ruminant digestive tract. It is so large to hold so much forage. The rumen, the process that occurs in it, is rumination, which is rechewing of their cud, and that's to make the plant material a lot smaller because it can't pass through if it's too large. So they pretty much throw it back up, they chew it multiple times, they swallow it, and the process happens quite a few times before it actually is fully digested. Protozoa and bacteria break down plant material. Absorption of non-bypass protein is absorbed. And then the rumen is covered in many villi, which helps absorb the non-bypass protein, and it helps provide surface area so that bacteria and protozoa can grow inside of it, so more breakdown will be happening. The reticulum is next in the process, which is the underside of the rumen. It's the second compartment of the ruminant digestive system, and it's also known as the honeycomb because of its unusual look. This allows the rumen to hold heavy pieces of metal or foliage. It says metal because cows or goats or sheep or whatever rumen is grazing, they're not really particular on what they're eating. They don't care what they're eating. They just eat whatever is in front of them. They don't pick through it. And so sometimes they might eat a piece of metal like a nail or a screw or something. And so it'll hold down there. And if you don't put a magnet inside their stomach, the metal will actually pierce through the rumen, and right underneath the rumen is a heart. So as you can tell, the rumen's right here, the heart would be right about here, and if the metal pierced through, it would kill the cow. So you'd put a magnet inside of the cow, and that way it would attract the metal, so that way they don't pass away from the metal. This is what the rumen looks like. As you can tell, it looks like a honeycomb, so that way large pieces can be held there. It holds back pieces larger than 1 inch, and then heavy pieces of metal will be trapped there. The omasum is the third compartment in the ruminant digestive system, and it looks like it has the same process as the monogastric large intestine. And it has many folds, and inside the folds it has millions of villi, which holds the folds and the villi used to make up more surface area. So that way, on the next slide, I'll explain to you. So it has so many folds and villi to help absorb the water, minerals, and vitamins. So this is what the omasum looks like. As you can tell, there's lots of folds, lots of little villi on top of it. The villi are those pointy things if you didn't know what a villi looks like. Next is the abomasum, which is the final compartment of the ruminant digestive system, and it acts like the monogastric stomach. Does anyone remember from our previous chapter what the monogastric stomach does? Wyatt?
Hydrochloric acid liquefies the food and starts to break down the protein in it. Mucus is produced in the gastric pits and protects the stomach from the hydrochloric acid from churning the first elements of food.
Yes. Does anyone know anything else that happens? So the abomasum has many gastric pits to help release hydrochloric acid into the abomasum. Hydrochloric acid is released, breaking down the protein inside of the abomasum. Mucus protects the stomach lining, so the mucus pockets are actually right next to the hydrochloric acid pits, because if they're not close enough, the hydrochloric acid might actually burn through the churning occurs, which is your stomach kind of like, whenever you growl, your stomach kind of like churns. That's your stomach churning. So you churn just like a cow would churn also. And then liquefaction of forage, which is the hydrochloric acid, kind of breaking it down into liquid. Next, I have a video that kind of helps put the picture to all these steps. I mean, I showed you what they look like right here. This is the abomasum, this is the omasum, but I don't have pictures of what they actually like in total look like. So during the video, the man who is speaking will actually explain to us what they look like, what they do, and I'll ask a few questions along with the video to help you guys get the process of thinking.
What we have in front of us here is a digestive tract from an 1,100-pound steer that was slaughtered just a few hours ago. And we have spread it out and removed some of the tissue so we can see things a little bit better from the esophagus, being at the head, and tied off here, all the way down to the rectum, which has been tied off there. So all of this is just a tract in between that the steer would be using to digest and absorb the nutrients from the feed. I have the esophagus in my hand, of course up here at the
Does anyone remember from our monogastric unit what the esophagus does? What?
Peristalsis pushes the food down and rumination brings it back up to your food.
Yes, that's correct. So peristalsis is kind of the muscles inside the esophagus pushing the food down for when you swallow. That's why if you're standing on your, like, you're doing a handstand, you can still swallow things through peristalsis. It doesn't just stay in your mouth. And then rumination also occurs, which is the food coming out through peristalsis.
mouth. It's been cut right at the end of the mouth. Its function is going to be to carry the material down. In the case of the steer, it also brings material back up for chewing or cut. It's about the same cows that chew or cut with. The esophagus has a function going both directions. It enters into the rumen, which is this large area here. It is actually filled with gas now.
Why would there be gas inside of the rumen? Why?
Fermentation occurs even after they die because the protozoa and bacteria don't die at the end.
So rumination, well, rumination is the process of it chewing its cud, but yeah, fermentation would be the process of the plant materials being broken down by bacteria and protozoa. So when it's broken down, it tends to cause a lot of gas to build up. So that is why there's actually gas inside of it. Does anyone remember what the rumen does? What?
The non-bypass protein is absorbed all throughout the rumen, and protozoa and bacteria break down the plant material.
Yes. And then rumination occurs.
Because of the digestion that continues to go on by the bacteria that inhabit the rumen. And the other part of the tract here is the reticulum, and this area right here.
So what does the reticulum look like? Andrew?
That's the honeycomb structure that holds the metal in.
Yes.
Here's attached to the rumen. The opening of the esophagus actually just goes into the junction of the reticulum and the rumen. From the reticulum, the exit from that is right about here, and it goes into this structure, which is the omasum. And if you feel it, you probably can see it. It's quite hard. From there it goes.
So what's the process that happens in the omasum? Why?
Food passes through the many flies in it, and it dries out the water and shakes out the vitamins and minerals.
Yes. And do you does anyone remember what part of the monogastric system?
Large intestine.
That is correct.
On to the true stomach, which is the abomasum, which is right here.
And what does the abomasum do? I need all 4 steps. Why?
Hydrochloric acid liquefies the food and breaks down the protein. Mucus protects the stomach lining from the hydrochloric acid and churning occurs in the milk.
Yes. All of that's correct, and it represents the true stomach inside the monogastric system. They act exactly the same, except for one's in a rumen and one's in monogastric.
The abomasum, it goes into the small intestine, which I have the beginning of right here. And the small intestine goes all the way through, and you can see a very long intestine that you see here all the way through the tract. And then eventually joins in And at the end of the small intestine, the very end, it forms a T-juncture with the
10-minute
cecum,
mark.
which would be the appendix in humans. So we have the small intestine entering into the junction with the cecum. The rest of the material will go into the large intestine, and the large intestine follows on through here, coils, and comes out to the rectum. Ruminants tend to be non-selective and oftentimes eat things they shouldn't be eating. Animals also can lick themselves, and sometimes we'll find hairballs associated with the rumen. Here's an example of a hairball that came from the rumen of an animal. It's fairly light. It's composed primarily of hair. You can get very large ones, as large as this one that occurs in the rumen. When you have one that's this large, it's taking up space that what they're consuming could be taking up, so we actually have a restriction in intake. So it's not a desirable thing to have.
Prepare for questions.
Okay, so can anyone tell me the order of the digestive tract? Wyatt?
Rumen, reticulum, omasum, abomasum.
Yes. Can anyone tell me what the omasum does? Wyatt?
It absorbs water, vitamins, and minerals.
Can anyone tell me what the reticulum does? Wyatt?
Holds back particles larger than 1 inch.
11 minutes and 30 seconds.
Does anyone remember what the abomasum does? Wyatt?
Hydrochloric acid liquefies and uses through churning occurs and uses intestinal from the hydrochloric acid.
Yes. And does anyone remember what the rumen does? Wyatt?
Protozoa and bacteria bring down the plant material, rumination occurs, and churning occurs later.
And absorption of non-bypass protein.
Yes, that is another thing that happens. Thank you for your time and letting me present in front of the class. It means a lot to me, so if any of you have any questions, you can